My name is Marisol Reed, and I am 34 years old. The christening hall smelled like sugar and flowers and money spent to look effortless. White lace draped the tables, gold chairs caught the light, and a balloon arch leaned just slightly to the left, like it had been rushed into place and told not to complain. Babies cry at events like this because they sense the performance. Adults cry later, in cars. I arrived early because that's who I am in my family, the buffer, the extra hand, the person who smooths wrinkles before they're noticed. I carried a diaper cake I'd engineered the night before, balancing wipes and pacifiers like a small architectural feat. My son Eli stood beside me in a button-down he hated because it had buttons. He kept them fastened anyway. That's his tell. When he's uncomfortable, he follows rules harder. We took our seats near the dessert display. Someone had spelled out blessed in looping script, piped thick and sweet. I remember thinking how the word looked permanent, like it didn't expect to be questioned. My sister, Calla, floated through the room with the kind of ease that suggests gravity negotiates with her. She was 31, radiant, newly maternal, surrounded by a soft focus glow that families reserve for favorites. Our mother hovered close, correcting napkins, straightening bows, rehearsing smiles. Dad had been gone since I was in high school, which in our house meant the absence had become a character we didn't name. We called it complicated and moved on. Speeches began. The godfather joked about sleep deprivation. The godmother cried. Then Calla stood, tapped her glass, and the room leaned toward her. She smiled, one hand resting on her baby's head like a claim. At least my baby will grow up with a father, she said, voice light, practiced. Some people make better choices. Laughter slid across the room, polite, uncertain, enough to count. It felt like oil on water. I kept my face neutral because neutrality has been my armor for years. Beside me, Eli's shoulders tightened. Our mother leaned in, her voice low and gentle, the way you speak when you're delivering a verdict you don't want overheard. Some people just make the wrong choices, she added, as if we were exchanging recipes. I breathed in through my nose and looked at my son. He was studying his napkin like he might fold himself into it. I rubbed his back once. My role has always been temperature control. Keep it from boiling, absorb the heat, make it livable for everyone else. A chair scraped softly. Eli stood. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't glare. He looked genuinely confused, the way kids do when adults laugh at something that doesn't sound funny. Aunt Calla, he asked, is the Ohio thing still a secret? Silence landed wrong. Not reverent. Alert. A fork clinked. The DJ bent down as if he'd dropped something, because adults can't stand doing nothing when a room goes still. Calla's smile froze, too bright at the edges. What Ohio thing, she said. Eli looked at me, waiting for translation. Months ago, he'd heard words through a phone speaker that weren't meant for him. He didn't know what they meant. He just knew my name had been said carefully. Sit down, sweetheart, I said, keeping my voice even. Is it the one about the card with your name? He asked, trying to help, trying to fix the story. Eli, I held the word steady. Sit. He did. 12 years old, brave and small, all at once. The baby fussed. The DJ nudged the volume up 2 notches, like sound could mop feelings. Calla laughed, a sound like a lock clicking shut. Kids say the funniest things, she told the room. Anyway, cake soon. Shoulders dropped. Our mother pinched my arm under the table, hard enough to leave a memory. What did you tell him? She hissed. Nothing, I said. I didn't look at either of them. I looked at my son and nodded like the world still made sense. I sliced cake I didn't taste. I passed plates. I adjusted a bow. Normal is a skill you can practice until it feels like lying. People think a blow-up is a volcano, sudden, dramatic. It's not. It's a sink filling slowly because the drain has been clogged for years. I was 19 when Calla first said, just use your name for now. She was moving out with a boyfriend who had plans and no pay stubs. The electric company wanted a deposit. It's just utilities, she said. We'll switch it in a month. Mom nodded like it was thoughtful. I had a paycheck and a need to be needed. 2 months later, a bill arrived with a late fee and a pink stripe. I swear I mailed it, Calla said, breezy. I paid it because my credit score felt like a grade, and I like A's. The switch never happened. At 22, I co-signed a used car just for a year. The car lasted 2. The job didn't. I paid the last 3 payments because it was easier than 30 calls and a mark on my report. "You're such a good sister," Mom said. "Such bad luck." When I got pregnant at 21, Eli's father came to the first ultrasound and 2 birthing classes and then a bus station. He left a note with an apology thin enough to see through. I did what women do when plans fall apart. I made a new plan. Morning shifts at a pediatric clinic, nights at a call center, coupons, caffeine. Mom held my newborn and said, "This is why girls should wait." She never said that about Calla. Calla moved to Ohio for love or work or fresh air, depending on the story. She had a different number and a louder laugh. She called when she needed a ride on my Prime or a small float or a tiny favor. One Tuesday, Mom's phone was on speaker while she chopped onions and Calla talked fast. "Just for a month," she said. "I put Marisol's name because she gets better offers." "What did you put my name on?" I asked, nudging a toy train with my foot because motherhood teaches you how to bend without falling. "A store card," she said, "groceries, and a doctor bill. Collections people are dramatic. Relax." "Take my name off." "You're always so alarmist." 2 weeks later, my phone learned a new trick. Ohio area codes. Michelle from Recovery. Greg from Billing Solutions. "We're just trying to help you resolve a balance, Ms. Reed." My last name in someone else's mouth. I pulled my credit report and sat on my couch with printouts and a pen, my chest doing that hollow tight thing you get when you almost drop a baby and catch them at the last second. "Take my name off," I said again, slower. "I will," she said. "It's just until my new job clears. Don't be cruel." Cruel is a lockpick in my family. I could have reported it then. I didn't. Eli was 4. I had 2 jobs and a daycare bill that made me check my account like I was reading my own pulse. I paid 2 balances because the collectors were efficient and my landlord was not patient with "it's complicated." Calla sent me $25 once with a heart emoji. The memo said, "Love you." Years stacked. Ohio went quiet, then loud, then quiet again, like weeds after rain. I learned scripts. I learned to freeze my credit when I felt a weird breeze. I learned to leave my debit card at home when I visited Mom because she had a way of saying, "While you're here, can you just put the water bill on autopay?" Calla's check got held. Could I spot rent? Just this once. It's silly to wait on buying a house when you could help your sister build stability. And my son grew. He learned which dinners were loud and which were quiet. He learned to bring a book. He learned to watch my face for clues. So when he asked about Ohio at the christening, he wasn't being cruel. He was being 12 and honest. He said the quiet part in a room that survives on quiet parts. As we drove away early, past the gold chairs and the fake flowers, I knew something had shifted. Not exploded, shifted. A line I'd been drawing in pencil for years had just been traced in ink. I didn't know yet how much that would cost. I only knew I couldn't erase it. The thing about secrets is that they make sound even when no one is speaking. They hum, they tap. They wake you up at night with the sense that something is knocking from inside the walls. After the christening, Ohio got loud again. It started the way it always did, numbers that looked like relatives, voicemail tones that pretended to be polite. I listened to one message while unloading groceries, Eli lining cans on the counter by size because he likes order where he can find it. "Hello, Ms. Reed. This is just a courtesy call regarding an outstanding balance." Courtesy is a word people use when they're about to take something. I hung up and stood there longer than necessary, my hand resting on a can of soup I hadn't bought for myself. I thought about the math of it all. Not just dollars, but hours. The hours I'd worked to pay for things I hadn't touched. The hours I'd spent explaining no in nicer and nicer ways until it sounded like maybe. The hours I'd taught myself to be grateful for crumbs because crumbs were still food. That night, after Eli went to bed, I pulled the Ohio folder from the cabinet. It was thicker than I remembered. Credit reports, letters with little plastic windows, notes I'd written to myself in careful handwriting, like I was leaving instructions for someone calmer. I laid everything out on the table and saw the pattern I'd refused to name. Utilities, retail cards, medical bills, all opened with my information, all tied to addresses I'd never lived at. Different companies, same story. My name had become a coat someone else wore when it got cold. I called Calla. It rang long enough to feel deliberate. "Hey," she said, bright. "What's up?" "Ohio's calling again." A pause measured. I thought that was handled. "It's not. It's old stuff, Marisol. Why are you digging it up now?" Because my son said it out loud, I almost said. Because I'm tired, I wanted to say. Instead, I said, take my name off. All of it. I will, she said, the way she always did. I just need time. Time for what? For things to stabilize, she said. You know how hard it is. I did know. I knew how hard it was to choose between groceries and gas. I knew how hard it was to work until your body learned to sleep in pieces. I knew how hard it was to be scared and still not steal someone else's name to fix it. Don't be cruel, she added, softer now. Cruel. There it was again. The word that turned boundaries into sins. I ended the call without saying goodbye and sat with the phone in my hand until it felt heavy enough to put down. The next day, Mom called. Your sister is upset, she said without preamble. She's got a baby now. This stress isn't good for her. And what about me? I asked. A beat. You're strong. Strong is what people call you when they expect you to carry things they don't want to touch. I remembered being 19, standing in line at the electric company with Calla, signing papers because I had an ID and she didn't. 22, sitting in a used car lot that smelled like coffee and rubber, telling myself it was temporary. 21, holding a newborn and learning that love doesn't make money appear, it just makes you resourceful. I had told myself stories to survive. This is temporary. She'll pay me back. Family helps family. The problem with survival stories is that they don't come with an ending. You can live inside them forever and call it loyalty. That evening, Eli asked why I was quiet. We were eating pasta, the cheap kind that sticks if you don't stir fast enough. Just thinking, I said. About Ohio? He asked, casual, like he was asking about the weather. I looked at him. Why do you ask? He shrugged. It comes up when you're on the phone. You use your careful voice. That landed heavier than any bill. I had been teaching my son how to shrink without meaning to. I went to bed late and woke up early, the way I always had. But something was different. The hum wasn't just background noise anymore. It was a warning. At work, I moved appointments. Smooth tempers, lived in spreadsheets. At lunch, I pulled my credit report again. Fresh ink on old wounds. Nothing had changed. Nothing would, if I didn't. I called legal aid and left a message. I emailed a consumer attorney a nurse friend had once mentioned with a just-in-case tone that fooled no one. I pulled up the identity theft affidavit I'd half-filled months ago and stared at the blank spaces. They looked back like they were tired of waiting. That night, after Eli fell asleep to a movie we'd both seen too many times, I sat at the table and filled it out. Dates, amounts, companies. I wrote steadily, my hand shaking less than I expected. I froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. I opened a new checking account at a different bank because just in case isn't paranoia when it's earned. Then I did the thing I'd been circling for years. I wrote a message to Mom and Calla and didn't soften it. We're done doing this your way. Here's mine. I numbered the points because clarity is a kindness when emotions aren't. Remove my name from any utility, lease, subscription, or card within 72 hours. Repay the Ohio balances opened in my name. $2,518 total. Wire only. Do not use my name or my child in jokes again. Going forward, no loans, no holds, no you make more. If you need help, ask. I may say yes or no. I stared at it before sending, waiting for the old voice to argue. It didn't. I pressed send. Mom replied first, You're making a scene. We don't take family to court. Calla followed. Are you serious right now? Over old stuff. It's basically paid. It's not, I wrote. I have the letters. Then the words that finally told the truth slipped out from her. You're evil. I didn't respond. I put the phone face down and sat in the quiet. The sink had been full for a long time. All I'd done was turn off the tap. The calls came fast after that. Missed calls stack differently when you're done being afraid of them. They look less like threats and more like proof. I let them ring while I made pancakes the next morning, overcooking one because I was distracted and because perfection had officially been fired from my household. Eli watched the blackened edge and grinned. Practice pancake, he said. Exactly, I told him, flipping it onto his plate anyway. Still edible. He ate around the burned part like it was a puzzle he could solve, then looked up at me. Am I in trouble? For what? For saying the Ohio thing. The question landed soft and sharp at the same time. I sat across from him and kept my voice level. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Then why is everyone mad? I searched for a sentence that wouldn't teach him the wrong lesson. Because telling the truth in a room that lives on secrets feels like breaking something, I said, even when it's the secret that was already broken. He thought about that, brow furrowed. So, are secrets bad? Some are private, I said. Some are protective, and some belong to someone else and hurt people when they're kept. Those aren't ours to hold. He nodded slowly, like he was filing it away for later. Okay. That okay mattered. It meant he trusted me with the rules of the world, not just the snacks. While he got dressed for school, I called legal aid again and got a return message this time. I left my name and number, my voice steadier than it had been a week ago. I asked our neighbor to sit with Eli for an hour that afternoon, just in case. Experience teaches you to build exits before you need them. At lunch, the consumer attorney called back. Her name was Daria, and her voice sounded like a handrail. Solid, unflustered. I gave her the short version. She asked for the long one. I opened the Ohio folder and told the story the way it looked on paper, not the way my family preferred to remember it. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said 4 sentences that changed the way my shoulders sat. Identity theft doesn't stop being theft because it's family. You don't owe people silence about their behavior. Documentation beats drama. I can send a demand letter that's kind and sharp. Yes, I said too fast. I heard it and didn't apologize. The text escalated while I worked through Daria's checklist. Pull reports, file the affidavit, place extended fraud alerts. At 3:12 p.m., Calla wrote, "You're sick. I won't forget this." At 3:13, "Mom, we raised you." At 3:14, an Ohio number left a voicemail asking to verify my identity before discussing my file. Verification is a door you get to close. I smiled, small and tired and real. That evening, I drove to Mom's house because if I didn't say it in a room, they'd pretend texts weren't real. They were in the kitchen when I arrived. Calla with the baby on her hip, Mom already wearing the face she saves for monologues. I put the folder on the table and sat, calm, centered. Calla spoke first. "You embarrassed me." "You embarrassed yourself," I said. "And me, and my son." "It was a joke." It was a message. Mom stepped in. "We're family." "Yes," I said. "That's why I'm telling you the rules, because I want to still be family next year." I slid the Ohio printouts across the table. Dates, amounts, my name in black and white. Calla looked at the baby like the baby might testify. "I was broke," she said. "I was a single mom." "So was I said, "and I didn't steal your name to fix it." Silence stretched, then settled. I told them what would happen next. Deadlines, wires, removals. I left the folder on the table because copies exist. I kissed the baby's head because she didn't do this. I didn't hug either of them. Consequences aren't hugs. In the car, my hands shook, not from doubt, but from the unfamiliar feeling of not backing down. The next morning, there were 47 missed calls. I answered none. Life didn't pause for my boundary. It never does. I went to work. I ordered printer ink. I moved appointments. At lunch, Daria emailed the demand letter. Subject line, notice of identity theft and demand for cease and repayment. It wasn't a threat. It was a map. At home, Eli helped me tape a list to the fridge. House rules, written in dry erase marker. No secrets that belong to someone else. No money without receipts. No jokes that stab. No yelling. No calling boundaries cruel. We added stickers because he's 12 and because joy matters. When he went to bed, he asked, "Are these forever?" "Yes," I said. "And also, rules can change if they make sense, not because someone pouts." He smiled like I'd explained how brakes work. Then he went back to building something small and careful on the floor. He called it closure because he thought he was funny. He is. The wire came in pieces, which felt appropriate. First, $1,000. The memo read for love. Then, 49 minutes later, another deposit, 1,500 AKI. No memo at all. I stared at the screen until the numbers stopped being numbers and started being air. Relief is quieter than panic. It doesn't announce itself. It just lets you breathe again. Daria emailed right after. Received. Good. Now the other part. Removal from accounts. She scheduled a call with Calla and the utility companies for the following afternoon. I put it on my calendar like it was a dentist appointment I'd been avoiding for years. The backlash didn't stop. It changed shape. Calla posted a black square with white text. Beware of people who weaponize boundaries. Hearts bloomed underneath. I didn't respond. I don't fight in places with like buttons. Mom sent links about forgiveness, sunsets and stock photos doing the emotional labor. I hearted them because they weren't invoices. The call with the utilities was tedious and petty and glorious. Please remove Marisol Reed. Yes, I'm sure. No, don't put me on hold to ask my sister. Written confirmations arrived like receipts from a long trip. By Wednesday, my name was off 3 things. The Ohio balances showed 0 with a small, ugly note, paid by third party. I printed everything and slid it into the folder with a sticky note that said, "Do not open in a weak moment." Mom drove to my apartment without warning on Saturday. She brought a Tupperware of something beige and set it on the counter like an apology that didn't want to speak first. "You're destroying this family over pennies," she said. "Pennies are how we got here," I said. "Pennies and just this once, and you make more." "Your sister was scared." "So was I said. I was 21 with a baby and a job and a bill named rent." She softened for a second, then hardened again. "You used to be so kind." "I'm still kind," I said. "I'm just not accessible." She didn't like that word. She left the Tupperware. I threw it out later because I'm done putting mystery into my body. The good things were small and sturdy. Eli slept hard, his brain no longer listening for late-night calls. I made soup without calculating 10 other budgets. A neighbor left a note. He borrowed the screwdriver. He said please and thank you. Good kid. I put it on the fridge under a lemon magnet. At the end of the month, I moved the family tab in my spreadsheet to a folder named Archive. I didn't delete it. I'm not ready for that. But I put it behind 2 clicks. That felt like exhaling. Mom and I talk about neutral things now. Dish soap sales, the neighbor's dog. When the conversation veers toward my sister, I say, "I'm going to hang up now," and I do. I don't die. Calla and I exchange photos of the kids. She wrote, "I shouldn't have said that at the table." I wrote back, "I shouldn't have let it go this long. We left it there. No hearts, no fire." One night, Eli asked if our rules were still on the fridge forever. "Yes," I said. "And also, rules can change if they make sense, not because someone pouts." He nodded and went back to building a tiny crane out of leftover screws and patience. He called it closure. He thinks he's funny. He is. I taped 5 lines on an index card inside the cabinet where the mugs are. I don't send money I can't afford to see again. I don't put my name where I don't live. I don't explain math to people who prefer magic. I don't accept cruel when I said no. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. The Ohio folder sits on a shelf. I hope it grows dust. I hope the only call I get from that area code is a survey and I hang up. I can't control how others edit their stories. I can control my door. Closure isn't a slam. It's a click. It's a lock finally fitting. It's a child asking a clear question and a mother deciding the window stays open. And we're good. 7 weeks after the christening, the photos went up. Calla posted them on a Sunday afternoon, filtered warm and soft, every edge sanded smooth. Gold chairs, white lace, smiling faces frozen before words could bruise them. The baby looked like a small loaf of bread that had learned to grin. There was no speech in the album, no audio. That's how stories survive in my family. Silence does the editing. I didn't comment. I didn't zoom in. I didn't need to prove I was there. I had the memory, unfiltered, and I'd already paid for it. What surprised me wasn't the quiet from Ohio or the absence of collectors. It was how little space the whole thing took up in my body now. Anger had burned hot and fast, but it hadn't stuck. What lingered was something steadier. Not forgiveness, not distance, orientation. Like furniture rearranged so you stop bumping your shins. Eli noticed it before I did. "You're lighter," he said one night, while we brushed our teeth side by side, foam-mouthed and sleepy. "Am I?" "Yeah," he said. "You don't sigh before your phone rings anymore." That stopped me. I looked at my reflection, older than I felt, younger than I'd been allowed to be. "That's because the phone doesn't get to decide things anymore." He rinsed, wiped his mouth, and nodded. Like that made sense. He's good at accepting rules when they're fair. He's always been. School settled into its rhythm. Work stayed busy. Life did not pause to congratulate me on my boundary. It never does. But the absence of chaos created room for small joys to land. Good mechanical pencils. Soup that simmered long enough to taste like intention. Evenings without my mind running inventory on other people's emergencies. Mom and I spoke less, and when we did, it was careful but civil. She tested the edges once, asked if I could just help a little with something unrelated. I said no without explaining. The line held. She changed the subject. That was new. Calla didn't apologize again. She didn't need to. We existed now in a thinner space. Photos exchanged, logistics only, no moral commentary. It wasn't closeness. It wasn't war. It was coexistence, which felt like progress earned the hard way. One Saturday morning, Eli took the index card from the cabinet and read it out loud like it was a pledge. He paused at the last line. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. What does closure actually mean? He asked. I thought about it. About locks and windows and the difference between silence and peace. It means you don't keep reopening a door just to see if it hurts less this time. He considered that, then went back to his project on the floor, a mess of screws and patience. I like closure, he said. It sounds like something you build. He wasn't wrong. The Ohio folder stayed on the shelf. I didn't check it. I didn't test myself. Dust is proof of trust. I trusted that the systems I'd put in place would hold, and if they didn't, I would handle it with my eyes open. On a quiet night, long after Eli fell asleep, I stood in the kitchen and listened. No humming, no tapping, just the refrigerator cycling and the soft certainty of a locked door. I thought about how long I'd confused love with access, help with obligation, silence with kindness. Love is not access. Help is a gift, not an invoice. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're instructions. If there's a moral, it's unglamorous and reliable. You can't build a family on jokes that stab and bills that don't belong to you. You can build one on clarity, consistency, and a kid who believes asking the right question matters more than being liked. Eli calls his latest project closure, even though it's really just a tiny crane that lifts nothing at all. He says that's the point. Maybe it is.